Help support Friendo Club by going to patreon.com/Stephen Larson or clicking join at youtube.com/Stephen Larson. Access to bonus episodes, question threads for the Going In Raw podcast, and entry to our monthly wrestling predictions challenges. Join the Friendo Club today. Hey, Friendo, Steve here.
Hey, Larson.
And welcome back to Going In Raw Count Out. We're going to have a little bit of fun today, Larson, because we are talking iconic merchandise. Of course, we've got our own merchandise over at friendoshop.com. Use Friendo code 2024. You can get all sorts of great stuff over there, including Wrestle Juice merch. You can get a Wrestle Juice hat. You can get a Friendo Club hat. You got over there, you got your Friendo Club shirt on.
Show the mug.
I don't have it on me. It's in the dishwasher right now.
See, it's such a good mug. It's not just set dressing. You actually use it.
I actually use the thing. Yeah, absolutely. So,
quality.
I don't know what the impetus of this was. Roots of Fight sent us a bunch of really cool merchandise. You know what? Screw it. I'll give them a shout out really quick.
Yeah, they reached out to us and asked, hey, would you be interested in checking out some of their pro wrestling offerings?
Like, look at this one that Roots of Fight sent us. It's a CM Punk hat. It's a camo hat.
It's a great hat.
Yeah, going to be camo.
Oh, you almost did that smooth enough. It looked like you put that hat on top of the other one.
Ooh, it was an illusion there. Look at that.
It was close.
Look at that. So anyways, we got a bunch of great stuff. You guys, we'll show that off in a little bit. But first up, let's go ahead and dive into this, man. This is iconic merchandise from years past. Let's go ahead and dive into it. Number 10.
10.
Macho Man sunglasses shirt. Well, you got it right there. So we're going to, come on, man. There you go. Look at that.
It's all wrinkly. It's been in my dresser for a while.
Yeah, you don't have to hold that up the whole time. I got a little picture. Oh, those were the actual sunglasses. I got an actual picture of it here. And we're going to use these as visual aids here because I decided to produce this up a little bit. Okay, you can put it down. You can put it down. I said you can put it down.
You don't need picture because I have it right here.
For fuck's sake.
Okay, I'll put it down. Anyways, yeah, this, there was 3 shirts kind of in the rock and wrestling era of WWE programming that were ubiquitous.
That means they're everywhere.
Yes. This was one of the 3. We'll get to the other 2 later. Probably ascertain what those 2 other shirts were. But in terms of encapsulating, I think the best merch really encapsulates the essence of who this character is.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And you got the sunglasses that were one of the hallmarks of Macho Man.
Mm-hmm.
And you got him there in the reflection of sunglasses pointing at somebody. I'm guessing after doing this.
Okay, this is my question about this shirt, though.
Sure.
Who's wearing the sunglasses on the shirt?
I am, Steve.
So somebody's looking at Macho Man while wearing his sunglasses, but he's also wearing his sunglasses.
It's like a through the looking glass type deal. Oh, maybe Lanny's wearing them. I don't know.
It's Lanny.
The genius. It's like, hey, brother, let me borrow your sunglasses. Puts them on, and then he sees through the sunglasses the essence of what it is to be the Macho Man.
This is moments after Lanny dropped one of those epic poems on the Macho Man. And Macho Man's like, oh, yeah, that's really good, brother. I like it a lot. Oh, yeah, let's go listen to some Jackson 5. Oh, yeah. Anyways, Macho Man, what a great shirt this is. And on top of that, it's purple. It's best color. So
Purple heather, no less. I know.
Yeah.
It's a great shirt. I got this one. This isn't obviously an original from 1986 or whatever. I bought this off WWE Shop.
What a poser you are.
For heaven's sakes.
Gotta get the authentic one.
I'm not going to drop $50 on a t-shirt I can get in WWE Shop for $45. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. This is a good one. All right, man. You want to move on to the Golden Age, Larson?
Oh, you know what? You don't want to talk more about Macho Man? It's a great shirt. It said it encapsulates the essence of the character. Here's the thing. I did a bunch of research. By that, I mean like half an hour. Trying to find any measure of decent sales statistics or data about any of these shirts.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's just hard to come by. You could have Meltzer speculating based on some formula of something. But
yeah, where are we gonna? Yeah, you can't. You put that up on his message boards. You got to take that right back down. Yeah, we were gonna try to do a thing where, best-selling shirts of all time, but it's really difficult to find.
Yeah,
that.
that's the information's like basically impossible to find, like actual well-sourced information. There's some anecdote stuff in here, but I think a lot of this is going to be us talking about the design aesthetic, what it means to the character who wore that shirt, cultural impact, stuff we don't need sales statistics and data to discuss. I mean, like there's some of them that there's two shirts I think in the world of the history of professional wrestling that probably outpaced everything else.
Yeah.
All anecdotal evidence, that seems to be the case.
Well, also, we'll talk about a little bit of that later, but yeah, I mean, that's why we went with the title Most Iconic, because it's fairly kind of subjective, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
With maybe a couple exceptions. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Let's go to number 9.
9.
The Hot Rod Roddy Piper shirt. There it is. This is actually, the picture I have here is actually, I think, for his theme song on YouTube. But you can see him wearing the shirt right there. It's a great picture of Roddy Piper. And he's wearing the Hot Rod shirt. Of course, Ronda Rousey stole this shirt design because she was wearing his jacket and sort of stealing his whole thing.
She liked Piper a lot. And
she liked Piper quite a bit.
Named one of her moves after his talk show segment in WWE years ago. But
right, yeah.
Again, now we've gone through 2 of the 3 ubiquitous shirts of the Rock.
All these shirts kind of during their eras were ubiquitous.
Yeah. The rock and wrestling era. And strictly from a design aesthetic, there's basically nothing to quibble about with this one. You have the font that's very much of its era. It's kind of like a Flash Gordon thing.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And it's got the gradient on it. I'm not usually a huge fan of gradients. It works here.
Because it's like red and yellow is kind of hot. It's like the hot colors.
And there's a manic energy about the font itself, which very much matches Piper's personality.
And on top of that, if you're wearing a kilt with this, as he did, you've got the red ringer aspect of the shirt that matches that. It's complementary to your red kilt.
Exactly. And Piper, he was, of course Hogan did as well, but you can make the case fairly easily that Piper had far more success in terms of acting outside of wrestling than Hogan did. Hogan may have been in more stuff. Piper is in the better. I mean, They Live is better than anything Hogan ever did.
Yeah, it's classic.
And he managed to. What was the name of that show that we did the review of with Brian Zane, Rob Fee that he was in?
Wasn't it? He was in that with Jesse Ventura, right?
Yeah. What was that called? It was a cop thing.
Something Heat?
Maybe. The Heat Will Rock You?
Probably not.
Heat Will Roll You. Anyways, but with Piper gaining some measure of mainstream notoriety, fame, this is one of those shirts that
Tag team.
There it is. Really? That was it?
Definitely not Heat.
No, I guess not. It's one of those shirts that was fairly prominent, and I dare say even if you weren't necessarily a wrestling fan in the 80s and early 90s, if you saw this shirt, be like, oh, that's Piper's shirt.
Well, also, if you were wearing it, it's very much in style. It was very much, it's one of those 80s type shirts that they loved the ringers back then.
Yeah. And our next entry, he likes them too.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and go into number 8 now.
8.
CM Punk's Best in the World shirt.
So I looked this up. I was wondering, this is the one, the white shirt, the ringer shirt with the logo, Best in the World on back. And I was wondering when he actually debuted this shirt,
Let me guess. It was after Money in the Bank.
It was at Money in the Bank.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
So the Go Home Raw, I was curious. So the first thing I did was look up Money in the Bank 2011 to see if he was wearing it then. And unless someone's really good with Photoshop, it looked like he was.
Oh, really? Okay.
Actually, they sold them. There's a Cage Side Secret report from 2011 to say those shirts sold out that night at the Allstate Arena in Chicago within minutes.
Wow.
Because it had Best in the World in the back and then the date, 7/17/2011.
Yeah.
And they were apparently going on eBay pretty soon thereafter, like $150.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
So he debuted that shirt, Money in the Bank 2011. I looked at the Go Home Raw, which is on July 11th, 2011. He was wearing a new Nexus shirt still. He had a contract negotiation segment with Vince.
Okay.
And he was still rocking the new Nexus shirt.
Okay, yeah. Those were probably, the yellow
6
version
days,
of the logo.
he wasn't on that week's SmackDown near as I could tell.
Okay.
In the 6 days between the contract segment, or that episode of Raw, and Money in the Bank, the new Nexus just poof, gone.
Yeah.
Completely non-thing for CM Punk anymore. And
I wonder
apparently
if
it was one
that's
of
interesting. Yeah, I wonder if in
Yeah.
his contract, the contract that he signed, I am now relieved of my duties from New Nexus.
I don't know.
Yeah, it is kind of wild that like era kind of like, like he was doing the weird New Nexus thing, and like while he did that, he did the pipe bomb and everything. Yeah,
Kind of. But then,
and then of course when he showed up in AEW, they did like kind of a bootleg version of that. I'll put that here up on the screen. I didn't send this to you. I just thought about it right now.
I have it somewhere because I think Dirty Rich sent it to us. Yeah.
And it's a much more kind of, I don't know, how would you describe, because you know what it is.
Yeah,
There's the original, which has very much, and this is nerdy because I worked at Kinko's when I was younger, which, is not in business anymore. It was a copy shop. And the original one had that zine two-toner look to it. It was like the red ink and you got the black ink. Well, the newer version, the AEW version, is much more kind of rendered, I guess. Like,
it looks like it's more from like an animated thing.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
And more rendered, I guess, is another way of putting it. Slicker.
Slicker. Yeah, that's a good,
As opposed to kind of the original design had a bit of a homemade quality to it.
Not quite the Punk zine DIY type thing.
No, and then after Punk came back to WWE, they re-released this shirt and it sold tons.
It sold tons. They have like the black Chicago variant of it, or the Chicago colors, I should say, variant.
Yeah. And apparently in 2011, this shirt sold a ton. I did see somebody say, again, I'm not going to like source it because I don't know how accurate it is, but something like this sold a ton in 2011. So the latter half of 2011, this shirt sold.
Not surprising. You saw this everywhere back then. Honestly, from 2011 to like 2014. And he had, he went through his yellow phase.
Did you hear the story about that yellow GTS shirt?
No, tell me.
So this is from memory. So the story that I recall is that he turned heel. And as a heel, he was like, I shouldn't have merch.
Okay.
And they're like, no, you got to have merch. You're CM Punk. And so I don't know if he asked or made a point or made sure they designed the ugliest shirt they could so it wouldn't sell.
Oh my gosh.
And so he got the yellow GTS shirt was the result of that apparently. And it still sold a ton.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. I've got that up on the screen. This is a wrestlingfigures.com image that I just ripped. This was a cool image.
You bought that shirt. You used to have that shirt.
I had this one?
Yeah, the yellow GTS shirt. I think you bought it when we went to Raw that day that CM Punk punched somebody in the crowd because
I must have worn this like once or something like that.
You wore it to my house once when we were doing something for 10 for the win. I remember that.
Okay, all right. I had a couple CM Punk shirts. I had a CM Punk Raglan as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I had a gray and black Raglan. Yeah. All of his stuff looked amazing. It all looked so good. Like that's why I advocate for him taking over NXT when Shawn Michaels is ready to go up to SmackDown and take that mess of a show over. And then rebrand, maybe for the CW. That's too soon for him to take over. But like whoever does his stuff, get them to rebrand NXT visually, presentation wise, and you'll have a mega hit on your hands. Because this stuff, it's beautiful. It just looks amazing. It looks so good.
Yeah, his packaging for the longest time. The longest time has been really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Really absolutely. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on now to number 8.
That was 8. We're on 7.
We're on number 7 now. Thank you, Larson. ECF&W. I've got a image of this from, I think, like eBay or something. Somebody's selling this. Probably
I mean, if you could encapsulate the ethos, the philosophy of ECW in a garment, this would pretty much be it. You've got the implied vulgarity.
Right. The effing stands, of course, for fucking.
You got the barbed wire on there, which they didn't do a ton with barbed wire, but again, that denotes a different approach to the world of wrestling.
You also have a handmade font, which is not available anymore. Like you can't. It's not an actual font. It's just ECF&W. They just did that. They just made it. As opposed to getting a font somewhere.
Well,
so
I
there's
don't
not
think,
like
font websites were around in 1995 either.
That's a very
maybe they were. It's the burgeoning days of the internet. Maybe there was font sites. I don't know.
I mean, fonts were a thing. Computers were a thing back then, so
Yeah,
fonts were a
maybe they
thing.
were.
But I have no idea the genesis of font websites. That's a very good point.
Nor do I. So I was reading something that
I
tweet
don't
that
think
Taz
Paul
put
Heyman
up.
was using computers to make his merch, though. I think we can probably agree on
That so a lot of these designs we don't know who's behind them. In the case of one later on, we have a name.
Yeah.
But I came across a tweet from Taz where he was talking about the merch.
Please tell me Taz made this.
That apparently Taz designed a lot of the ECW stuff by his own admission.
I thought I remember hearing that like him and Tommy Dreamer physically were packing these.
So apparently Tommy and a couple other guys, they were doing a lot of the order fulfillment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that ECW poster I used to have in my room back when we lived in the same house was actually packed, rolled to a poster tube, and sent.
Yeah.
By possibly Tommy Dreamer.
It had some DNA, some Tommy Dreamer DNA on it. There is whatever talk about top tier presentation.
Oh yeah.
That again, punk infused aesthetic, that DIY aesthetic that just was in your face, very 1990s in the best way. I mean, it kind of reminded me to a degree of like skate videos. It has that kind of feel to it. And I'm sure, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I would be shocked if some of their sort of promo B-roll material wasn't shot with a fisheye lens. And their merchandise echoed that same thing. Like you said, the vulgarity, the barbed wire, and the DIY look of the font. And it's just striking. The image that we have here on the thing is a red and white image, the font. And it just looks, it looks great. Even like when they would do their hats in the same type of font, it just had that 90s, but like 90s, just really kind of underground, cool factor to it. Yep. And that was so ECW. And I think that's like a large part of their legacy is due to their presentation. It really was phenomenal, and kind of bizarre that more promotions didn't try to adopt something similar.
I know it's interesting that so many companies have stuck to the visual language established by Vince McMahon, the WWF, WWE. We always go back to when TNA did the fly on the wall stuff for a little short time.
Yeah,
and how effective that was in kind of reconfiguring how a pro wrestling show can be presented and photographed, and it's not necessarily a complete reinvention of anything. It's basically the reality TV approach. You just got cameras, going backstage trying to find these moments and capturing them unbeknownst to the people participating in those moments. And not to say that ECW necessarily did that. They didn't. But in terms of them, even just how they structured hardcore TV, where you had match, and maybe you had some little bits of talking in between, but most of the promo stuff was saved to the end.
It was.
They would have promo, and they'd have the TV static and then the single take with the camera always moving. It's not steady.
And that's kind of what surprised me. And you see this here and there. Like, I've noticed it here and there. But the fact that everybody wants to... It's funny because everybody seemingly in the indie ranks that has any idea on how to produce anything, they all kind of want to be polished, as opposed to, because these days, obviously, iPhones, you can run around with a couple of these and get some phenomenal footage, but they don't want to dirty their shit up at all, And I mean, there is variety in the indie ranks. You look at Defy and how they shoot their stuff like on 24 frames and how some of their stuff, some of these indie promotions have stuff that looks absolutely beautiful. But ECW, but if you look back at the 90s, especially, how many promotions and I think you're right. I think in that, not just what they're presenting to you from, okay, this is how we're going to, do promos, this is how we're going to do matches, but they all wanted to be slick. They all wanted to be like Vince or WCW, as opposed to ECW, who is like, listen, let's take advantage. Let's make our stuff look grungy because that's what it is. That's what we can afford. That's what we can do. And we can lean into that. And I'm surprised that other promotions didn't do that back then, to try to just give themselves. It's funny because when you look at ECW, the TV show, kind of has more in common with pre-Raw WWF, because it would just be like, oh, here's a random ass match of RVD versus, Johnny Hotbody from this random ass show that we did, and then here's some footage from the last pay-per-view we did, and then again they do this some other random ass match. It's not like they went to these venues and said, okay, we're gonna tape TV. It's just we're gonna put on shows, and then at the end, like you said, they do these promos set to Misraloo or some Dick Dale song or something like that.
Yeah.
And there is just that guerrilla filmmaking aesthetic. That's weird that more people didn't try to take advantage of that.
Yeah, it is. It is. Or, even today when, as you mentioned, there's so many, if you're trying to release seemingly your wrestling product to the general public, whether it be streaming service, YouTube, whatever, there should be a certain level of production quality to it. You can make something that looks grungy and still have production quality, production value. It's like you have to choose one over the other. I'm sure part of ECW's production approach was necessity, but also they embraced what they had and used it to enhance the presentation itself.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the best quality cameras, that's not to say that you have to kind of try to do whatever you can to still make your product look as slick as possible. Embrace what you got.
Yeah.
Use the strengths that you have. Heighten those, and ECW at the time did that just about as good as anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we continue on to the next one, real quick reminder, hey guys, listen, if you want to help support Going in Raw in a way that's free, easy to do, leave us a comment on this video on the YouTube. If you're listening to this in the audio realm, do us a solid. Leave us a rating, review, or a comment. If you really like what we do, a 5-star rating would be very much appreciated. Over there on the YouTube, if you guys could leave a comment and leave a like, just hit that thumbs up. Try to get those up for the algorithm. We also have, like I said earlier, merchandise from friendoshop.com. If you use promo code Friendo2024, you get 20% off there. We also have bonus episodes, access to our question threads, and of course, access to the Big Blue Predictions Challenge coming up this weekend. We've got the first of 3 shows that we're using for our next Big Blue Predictions Challenge. All 3 shows, all in, all out. And of course, Bash in Berlin. All 3 of those combined are going to be the next Big Blue Predictions Challenge. It's not too late to get in on that. Go to patreon.com/Steven Larson. Click on the Friendo Club setup. It's $5 a month. Or click join right here at youtube.com/Steven Larson. Again, it's $5 a month. Get all the bonus episodes. Get the Big Blue Predictions Challenge and be able to ask us questions on our regular recap shows. Go ahead and check that out if you want to. Let's go ahead and move on now to number 6. Break it down. Break it down. Evolution is a business. Break it down.
X-Pac.
I got everything out. Okay, now we're all over the map. It's DX. It's the DX shirt. What's surprising? What's surprising about this shirt, Larson, is that it's the first one on this list that I think actually kind of sucks.
You know what? We just talked about how ECW shirt really captures the essence, the philosophy of ECW. This DX shirt really doesn't.
No, it does not. No.
So much about the presentation from the very get-go. They have one of the best Tron video packages ever.
And
that energy.
Maybe the best, yeah.
The theme, the energy of that whole thing. They have the logo flashing up during their entrance.
Mm-hmm.
They nailed all that.
They did, yeah.
And yet, it more or less completely escaped them when designing this shirt. That said, this shirt was everywhere.
It was everywhere,
for a
dude.
long time.
It was everywhere. And it's funny because the 2006 iteration of DX had much better branding. It had the green spray paint. And I'm like, they had green back then. I don't remember if they had spray paint things back in 98, 97 or whatever. I feel like they probably did. But
the NWO did.
The NWO did. I'm talking about DX.
Oh, I thought I recall.
But they couldn't come up with something grungier. They couldn't have come up with something
edgier. It just need to be edgy.
It's degenerates. Like,
Yeah.
that's the point of it. Why does this look like an industrial logo? It's
I
bizarre.
know. I mean, something about the fonts with serifs on them doesn't exactly scream edgy. You know what I mean?
This should really be
too
like on the
clean.
back of a truck, like in a
Yeah.
like a metal decal on the back of a truck. Hey, come pull my DX truck up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like you said, it was everywhere because everybody loved DX. But this is definitely not. So it's funny because the legacy of DX and how cool DX was made the shirt cool. You know?
Yeah.
And there's another shirt towards the top of this list that is the same thing or is the same philosophy. But this right here, yeah, like you said, it was everywhere. Everybody was wearing it. You look cool if you're wearing it because it was DX. On the back, it's even worse. It's got the X thing and then it's got 2 words, suck it. And like, I'm sorry, but suck isn't a bad word. You don't need to asterisk out the U.
You know, it's possible. You know, this is in the year 2024, but, you know, going back 25 years ago, you know, somebody wears this, like a kid wears this on the playground. Principal sees it. Suck it. To my office, you're getting suspended. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you know
Like,
what,
so maybe that's why.
Principal dickhead, you're getting crotch chop.
So maybe that's why they thought, all right, we'll put the asterisk there. So, you know, the kids who watched the show, which I don't know why kids be watching Attitude Era to begin with, when they wear these shirts to school, that they won't get in trouble with teachers or principal.
That could be. Maybe it's just the idea that, ooh, it's censored, therefore it must be explicit.
Edgy.
You know,
that's
edgy.
where they got
Yeah.
edgy was there, because there's nothing about this design that's terribly edgy. You
But
know what?
even-
You know this kind of reminds me of?
What?
If you place degeneration across the X there and put like Terminator, like imagine like Triple H is like, hey, let's design this like the logo for the 10th Terminator movie.
Yeah, okay. I thought you were gonna say it reminds me of Public Enemy guy,
Terminator X, of course.
Yeah, no, I could see this as being a Terminator logo. You're absolutely right. It has the metal gradient to it. Yeah, and it's funny because like in my head, there's green in it, but there isn't on this thing, which is weird because green was their thing.
It was all over the place.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, the front of this shirt would be much better if they got rid of the X over it. If they just said, if they did degeneration and on each side maybe where they had the filled in silver with the D, if they did the same with the X.
Oh yeah.
Just
you
real
could
minimal.
Yeah. Or you know what about this? If the X, see, this is where I like we're redesigning it here. What if the X wasn't so like steel? What if it wasn't so corporate? What if the X was more like the scratch logo?
Or spray painted on.
Yeah, or spray painted. Yeah, exactly.
It's really the serif font is what does it.
I agree. You know what? If I'm not mistaken, that might be the same X they used for WrestleMania 10.
It might be.
Or one of the WrestleManias afterwards.
You know, did they ever do a rated DX shirt like Motion Picture Association of America?
Oh, that'd have been good.
I don't think they ever did that.
That seems so obvious. Well, hey, you know, with the MPAA, they don't fuck around.
Yeah, no.
Wait a second. Hold on a second. Is rated X an actual MPAA thing, though?
Not currently. I don't think it was then. I think they changed it to NC-17 by then.
Yeah, but I thought X was...
It was at one point.
It was actually an MPAA thing at one point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Midnight Cowboy was rated X. So was Clockwork Orange.
Okay. It's not just what they would put if they got sent to
No, I think
out.
it was an actual rating.
All right. I'll have to look that one up because I'm kind of curious now. But the MPAA, they would come after them if they tried that shit. Yeah. Because here's the thing. It's one thing to, because I think even if, because I remember our friend who works there was talking about this, even if you mimic that and use like a different letter, they have been known, not across the board, but they've been known to come after people.
How did Queens of the Stone Age get away with it?
You know, maybe Bob Motion Picture is a big fan of Josh Homme. I don't know. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on now to number 5.
Five.
This one is probably my favorite one on this list. It's Cactus Jack's Wanted Dead or Alive shirt.
Aesthetically, this is about as perfect as a wrestling shirt gets.
You could wear this to a bar and not have to explain yourself.
Yeah.
Certainly not wearing something that says 2 words, suck it, and suck is censored. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Foley looks like a madman. This is awesome, especially if you get a version of this where it's like really like a deep contrast, because the one that's on the screen right now I think is like a current one. Gotcha. But like I swear like the original ones had like a deep contrast to them.
So I was curious like when he started using this shirt. And so I found a little clip from his podcast. And he mentioned somebody by the name of Bob Savini, I think he said, who was helping do merch for ECW, designed this shirt.
Is he related to Tom Savini?
That I don't know.
Okay, so you're absolutely right. The MPAA X rating was, that was a legit thing. Yeah. Okay.
And he made it seem like it was 1990. It was until 1995 he started selling the shirt.
Okay, that sounds right.
And he was talking about going to Japan and wrestling there, making $300 a show, but then making at least that selling Cactus Jack tees.
That's cool.
So he'd walk away $600.
Get his own hotel room.
Well, hopefully if they bring him over there, they'll take care of all that.
Maybe. You never know, though, man.
Who knows? But anyways, yeah, this is just one of those shirts where, as you mentioned, you can wear it anywhere. And it's just aesthetically, it's awesome.
And when he'd wear it with the red flannel, it contrasted so wonderfully.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And again, it's one of those shirts that perfectly encapsulates who this character is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When it comes to traditional pro wrestling, Cactus Jack was a bit of an outlaw.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
And there you have the wanted poster that says as much.
And also, you could be like, is he a time traveler? Is this a legitimate poster from the Wyatt Earp days?
Exactly, from the Old West.
Was he in Deadwood? No law.
Tombstone.
Maybe Tombstone. Maybe
Dodge City.
There you go.
That's all. I think that's about my max in the Old West towns.
Dude, come on. There's got to be others. I don't know. Anyways, this is great. It's amazing. 1995. Let's move on to number 4.
Man, we don't hear that theme anymore. It's a bummer.
Last time I heard, you know what? I think the dudes at TNA, Austin,
they did for a while, but I don't know if they still do.
Does Chris Bay, does he have his own theme song with Ace Austin now?
Maybe. I don't know. I haven't watched TNA in a while, but yeah, for a while, Bay and Austin were using Bullet Club theme, and that was cool. Bullet Club was, speaking of ubiquitous, from I don't know, probably middle of 2017 to early 2019. If you went to a wrestling show, probably at least a third of the crowd is going to have a Bullet Club shirt or some Bullet Club variant on. I did find, this is the closest I found to hard sales data.
Oh, wow.
So this is from a tweet from Pro Wrestling Tees, November of 2017.
Okay.
And they said, they actually had the actual exact number. I didn't put it here. But the PWT Tees, Pro Wrestling Tees, said in the 4 months prior to November 2017, so from July to November 2017, they sold over 400,000 Bullet Club shirts.
Oh, my God.
That's just Pro Wrestling Tees.
Yeah.
That doesn't include Hot Topic.
Mm-hmm.
Meltzer reported that the week of Thanksgiving 2017, Bullet Club shirts were the #1 seller at Hot Topic.
Yeah.
And then I found a thing saying that Hot Topic themselves announced that the Bullet Club shirt was their top seller in all of 2017, even though it was only really in stores for like half the year.
Oh, my gosh.
So they sold a ton of Bullet Club shirts.
You got to think in the millions at that point, the low millions.
Possibly.
You know? Yeah.
Easily in the millions from 2017 to probably end of 2018.
Yeah.
Easily.
This is also easily the best designed shirt of the batch. Cactus Jack shares a place in my heart, but that's got a very, again, kind of a punk aesthetic to it to a degree. I mean, it's Old West inspired, I know. But Bullet Club, this shirt right here, this logo kind of made the faction. And that's insane. I mean, kind of the same degree with NWO, but this logo right here, #1, I know guns can be, whatever, controversial, but they look cool. When they're on a shirt and you have bullets and you got a couple of guns and they're making an X sign, because obviously Bullet Club is inspired partially NWO, partially DX, it's got inspiration in that. Mm-hmm. And then you have like half a skull there in the middle. #1, a shirt where they just loaded up with cool design imagery. You can't go wrong with that. just a whole bunch of cool shit going on. You got the military insignia on the outside of club, and then just a big old bullet, at the top of it. And then, of course, you've got how it all looks distressed. You got like, it's all like rubbed off a little bit.
Yeah.
It design wise, and that's why this shirt, you can have variations on a design, and sometimes it doesn't work. This shirt has had so many design variations.
Everybody has whatever their thing is club. Like LP had Headbanger Club, and Kenny had his cleaner shirt, and the Young Bucks had their own variant, and they all worked.
And you're literally wearing, because I took like inspiration from that as well. Yeah, it just works. It just works so well. And yeah, like you said, to this day, like War Dogs, they've got their own Bullet Club shirt. And it's smart. Like, that shit probably still sells a ton.
Mm-hmm.
But this original one, nothing beats this original one.
This really isn't actually the original Bullet Club shirt. There was a previous design. You should look it up.
Is it the one that like says BlizzCliz on it or something like that?
No, it's completely different. It's completely different.
Original Bullet Club.
They sold it on Pro Wrestling Tees for a little bit.
Let's see here. I am trying to find it now, and I can't. Is it the BC for Life one? The circle logo?
No, it's this one.
Yeah, send it to me, because now I want to see that.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Is it, let's see here.
Here we go. I'll email it to you.
It's not the Bone Soldier one, is it?
No. It's the one that kind of, here, I'll just send it to you.
Yeah, just send me the thing, because I want to see that now.
It's from a Reddit thread. But they used to sell it on Pro Wrestling Tees, I believe.
Did you text us or did you email it?
I emailed it to you.
Okay. But yeah, no, this is absolutely a great looking shirt. Let me see if I've seen this before. This was the first. What?
Yeah, I know.
What
an
is
upgrade!
this?
What an upgrade from that, huh?
I have seen this before. I did not know that this was the original one.
That was the first, yeah.
It's not without its charm. I can see why that. I mean, that would not have been the thing. No. I'll put it up on the screen for the people to see. Yeah, that's, again, just the imagery of a bullet. It's kind of like a cigarette. It's not good for you, but it's cool looking. It looks really cool. Yeah. So yeah, definitely. We're going to sell more with the other one.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that one going, the original one being in Hot Topic?
No, I couldn't imagine that either.
No.
Let's go ahead and move on now to number 3. Hulkamania, brother. Larson, it's, I got to say, just a crime that Hulk Hogan, who is just seemingly daily exposing himself to be kind of a big piece of shit, does have some great looking merch. I mean, the branding of Hulk Hogan was spectacular. And from what I understand, I think, and maybe, I don't know, in your research, you can corroborate this or not, wasn't he one of the first to really start merching up quite a bit, like had his own merch and just made like a shit ton off that? I remember seeing that once, because I think the original Hulkamania shirt, it was just it was like white with the red like felt iron-on font looking thing.
Yeah. It looked literally homemade, yeah.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently he just made a shit ton off that, and that's when like, Vince or, whoever, maybe it was Vern, maybe it was pre-Vince, I don't know, was like, oh damn, would people actually want t-shirts of this stuff?
Yeah. And that was crazy that, like, I don't know how much companies really thought money was in merchandising, but you'd think post Star Wars, especially because that's how George Lucas made most of his fortune, was because he owned all the merchandising rights for all the Star Wars stuff. If post Star Wars, that corporations would see how lucrative merchandising would be and then go all in on it. But in researching the NWO entry, which no shocker that's on here, Bischoff was talking about how WCW, while they did have a merchandising operation, it was crap. It was garbage.
It was nothing. Yeah.
Like shirts weren't good. Nothing was selling. And it's crazy that, any entertainment company, especially after maybe 1980, if you didn't have a dedicated merchandising department that was putting out interesting work, what are you even doing?
Yeah,
it's
right,
obvious
yeah.
there's money to be made through merchandising.
Yeah.
And to think that it's as late as the mid 80s seemingly for WWF to get in the merchandising thing. And then you had the Hogan shirts. You had the Macho Man shirts. I'd assume they were selling the Piper shirts too. I don't know for sure, but they sold a ton of Hogan stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's interesting because even today, one of the bigger complaints about AEW, even though like the early knock on AEW is, oh, it's just a t-shirt company, is that they don't have as beefy a merchandise presence as they should.
At live events, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you can get.
when
You
it
can,
comes to
there's
like
2,000
the
shirts
designs.
available on their website, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you have 5 to choose from at the shows. Yeah.
Right. But so to this day, it's still not like an exact science that they could just sort of replicate. But yeah, no, the Hulkamania logo. I mean, when you think of the phrase Hulkamania is running wild, that font right there, that design encapsulates that. It really does.
It really
you
does.
just get that frenetic energy right there.
Yep.
With what you think, and then Hulk doing his promos where his eyes are all bugging out. He seems coked to the gills. This design really just screams that.
It does.
And that's why he was able to make. And of course, the red and yellow combo is just absolutely iconic. It's just so ingrained. It's like if he would have gone with like blue and white, I'd been like, what? Powder blue and purple would have been cool. Now that I think about it, but the old, the red and yellow, man, that just works. It just stands out. It just works. Because then you look out in the crowd, you just see a sea of yellow.
Yeah, of red and yellow. Yeah, yeah.
It just stands out.
It does. It does. And you watch some of the shows, the WB shows from like 86, 87 onward. Mm-hmm. And you got 40% probably of the crowd wearing Hogan merch. A lot of them wearing the original Hulkamania shirt.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Sold
They
a ton.
Probably have sold a ton of these. Absolutely. All right, man. Well, you just mentioned it. Let's move on to number 2. The NWO. Sweet. Here's a lovely picture of Vincent wearing his NWO shirt. Of course, Larson, there were many variations. Much like the Bullet Club, you can get variations on this. Rarely do they beat the original. I'm partial to the red and black with Wolfpack. But also, that was kind of a product of who is in the Wolfpack NWO, Lex Luger.
It's interesting hearing Bischoff's talked extensively about the genesis of the NWO shirt design. Like, I think they went to Disney and because they had the stuff at where they were taping in Orlando. Is that how the story goes? About designing the logo for the NWO.
Wait, they went to Disney for the design?
I thought so. It wasn't. I don't believe it was in-house.
I thought it was in-house, but I could be wrong about that. Disney sounds like a much more specific thing, so maybe you do remember that. Because I know they mentioned in the Guy Evans book, in the Guy Evans Nitro book.
Oh, yeah. So it says here, Bischoff. So Craig Leathers, who was a WCW producer, went to the design studios at Disney MGM Studios.
Oh, okay. All right. The name
because
Craig
they were
Leathers
shooting stuff in
sounds
Orlando at the theme park at the time.
Yeah.
And had someone that worked in that design department there create the NWO logo, and that was probably 90% of what made the NWO seem cool. It was very much a logo that captured the zeitgeist that was of the times.
Yeah, because the thing about it, as we've seen, even as recently as one of those Kardashian kids wearing the Wolfpack thing, I think it was Kendall Jenner. It is a logo that just, number one, if you don't know what the number one, everybody's heard of some variation of New World Order, whether it's in wrestling or the conspiracy theory, and it just looks cool. You got the small N, the small O, and the giant W in the middle. And it's got that border around it. And again, you got the distressed look, like it's kind of spray painted on, which they did use spray paint famously on the title. And yeah, it just regardless, it's just one of those things that just fits. Did you see somebody put this on Twitter? I know I commented on it and I never got your thoughts on it, but somebody posted up a sheet of when they came to WWE, when Vince brought the NWO to WWE, they had the design team pitch a bunch of variations on the logo. And like in one of them, the W was the WWE logo.
Yeah, it was terrible. Terrible.
And there was like one decent one in the batch, I feel.
Yeah.
But they ended up obviously going with the original logo, and that was the smart move. You don't want to change
was.
that.
It definitely was. So I found the full quote regarding
Good.
design of the logo. This is on episode 83 Weeks with Bischoff. He says, we sat down and said, okay, here's what these guys represent, the New World Order. Here's their attitude. Here's all this. Gave them all the parameters, and they came back with 6 or 8, maybe 10 different ideas. And one of those was the NWO logo as we know it today. So as much I'd like to take credit for, to give credit to Craig Leathers, it was actually somebody at Disney MGM Studios that came up with that.
Do you remember the original NWO shirt, the one that Nash wore? It's got like, I think it's like a globe, and it's got like...
it's terrible. It's awful.
It is terrible. It is
it's
really
horrendous.
bad.
It's as good as this one is. That one is bad. It's so bad.
Let's see if I can put it up here. Original NWO logo. Oh, here. Oh, this is worse than I remember it being.
It's so terrible.
Save image. That's a WebP file. Let me see if I can get this here. Save image. Yeah, this is bad, but it is. Let's see here. Copy that. Come on, just do what I want you to do. But yeah, talk about selling a shit ton.
Yeah.
This
Apparently this is one of the 2 highest selling wrestling T-shirts ever, based on the little evidence I could find.
That is,
and there's a lot of times where it still will pop back up on WWE's top 10 selling merchandise items. It is an NWO shirt.
So I got right now on the screen, I've got the original one. This is so bad, and I'd rather get the story on this one. Like, what was this? Somebody should ask. Oh, maybe somebody will ask Kevin Nash on his podcast or something.
Hey, maybe someone has. I don't know.
But yeah, it's just for the audio crowd. It's just, there's a circle and it's a globe. It's like a really poorly done globe, and like it's against a red background, and the land masses on this globe are white, but in the middle of the globe is a really poorly done NW, and the shape of the globe is supposed to be the O. So like you have to kind of put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah.
To get that this is a globe, because the N and the W just cover up most of the land masses, which barely look like land masses. And so it honestly just looks like somebody came underneath the N and W.
Yeah,
it's just a bunch of white goo.
It wouldn't be the first time that's been the case on a wrestling T-shirt, though.
That is true. Nor
would it be the last.
Maybe next week we'll do the worst or most ridiculous merch.
Plenty of contenders there.
But this is really bad. So anyways, let's move on to number 1.
What?
Of course, we're talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin's rattlesnake logo, right? The one where
not that one.
His arms are rattlesnakes.
Not the rattlesnake arms. No, not the one where he's half Terminator either.
Half Terminator Austin. He's part of. It's not even a Terminator.
No, it's
like
just a skull, isn't it?
It's like skull. That's sort of like he's like
Two-Face.
It's X-ray vision.
Yeah.
It's like you can see into his skull there, but he's got Austin 316 tattooed on his forehead like they used to do on bum fights.
The top-selling T-shirt in all-time wrestling history.
This one,
Austin 316.
So it's not any of the imaginative ones where it's like, oh wow, you can peer into his skull, or oh he's a snake man.
No, nope, it's the one in Impact font that just says Austin 316.
Where like the letters are kind of awkwardly. So this is a design. Then on the back, there's a giant like smoking skull logo, but the front is what mattered.
Yes.
And of course, he dropped the Austin 316 promo '96, and then I guess they were kind of surprised. They're like, man, we see a lot of people wearing these Austin 316 shirts, and given the origin of the promo, the shirt was just super cool because it's like, oh man, this means I just whooped your ass. That's what it means.
Yeah.
Really cool shirt, but it's also a design that doesn't translate. Like we've seen other people use the same.
A lot of people have tried. WWE has tried several times. Like every city they go to, they have Sacramento 316 shirts.
Yeah. And I imagine they probably sell pretty decently. But in terms of just like a design aesthetic, not that impressive. It's just an iconic shirt.
It is. There's nothing impressive about the design aesthetic of the shirt.
Right.
It's about as basic, especially the front, is about as basic gets. But in terms of encapsulating a historic moment in the history of wrestling, in terms of encapsulating the energy of that moment. It does a good job of that, I guess. It reminds people of a moment where a star was pretty much made. And the Austin 316 thing is it encapsulates Stone Cold's philosophy. You know? So I guess in that sense, even though from a purely design point of view, it's not that impressive.
Yeah.
What that word and those numbers mean transcends the basic nature of the design.
How much thought do you think was put into this front design?
Again, back in 1996, 97, I don't know how easily you could get like fonts for stuff like this. I imagine back then, especially at printing places, you had your font book.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Your font book, and then you have to set them.
Yeah.
And then you have to do your screen printing.
Yeah.
Everything was screen printed back then.
Yeah.
So it was probably like, hey, what's a font that makes a lot of impact?
Mm-hmm.
Impact font.
We have impact font here.
Do it.
But then they also have, and it's bizarre that it's like they did this, but they've got the giant, like, thick screen print smoking skull in the back.
Yeah.
It's like, why
on a sandpaper quality heavy T-shirt.
Yeah, right. You wear that down in the South if it's like Florida or something like that, where it's like super humid. Oh my God.
Oh, gosh, you're sweating.
You'll lose 5 pounds of water weight going to a wrestling show.
But a lot of people have asked Dave Meltzer about who's the top merch seller all time and what's the shirt that sold the most. And he always says it's the Austin shirt. Not even close. Like he was making 8 figures a few years just on merch sales.
Yeah.
And a lot of it you got to assume is the Austin 316 shirt.
You would absolutely think so. And the great thing about that is that all that money went to one guy. It's not like the NWO where they had to split it. Although let me ask you this. Is there any way? I'm kind of curious. This is what we should have asked like a Scott Norton when we saw him.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What
kind of cut did he get versus the other guys?
Right.
Yeah.
Like
imagine Hogan got the most.
When Wall Street came in, did they give him any?
Well, here's the thing too. So you got to assume Hogan, Hall, and Nash, like their cut is off the top.
Massive, yeah.
And massive compared to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But when, there's a remainder of a pie that has to be divided up at that point. But then if they add new members, does everybody else's slices get smaller?
You gotta think so. Unless they'd be like, I'm legitimately curious, like what it's like you bring Wall Street in. How many Wall Street fans, no offense to IRS, but it's like how many fans of the NW are like, oh, Wall Street's a member now? Oh, I'm buying this.
Or I'm buying my NWO shirts, not New World Order, it's New Wall Street Order. I'm buying this shirt because Wall Street's in there.
Right.
You got to assume they're that some of the secondary tier NWO members, but I don't mean that as an insult. I mean Hogan, Hall, and Nash were S tier. They were the top guys in that faction, therefore probably got the larger cuts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody else, you gotta think it's like single digits, right, in terms of percentage.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Maybe even a fraction of percent.
Oh, I'm saying low single digits.
Yeah. I think 1 or 2%.
Wall Street, you're in, you get
0.5%.
0.5%, maybe.
I don't know.
Which still might be a couple $1,000 every quarter. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sure if they're selling millions of dollars of shirts a year, you're talking several $1,000s.
They probably do some of that. Hogan's people probably did some fuddy-duddy math,
Oh, 50% off the top for Hogan, probably.
Right, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, this Austin 316 all went to one guy, and it, he used it to buy a 316 Gimmick Street, of course.
Now he's got that ranch in Nevada.
Oh, wow, does he?
Smoking, or is it Broken Skull Ranch? Broken Skull Ranch, I think.
Broken Skull Ranch? Yeah.
Okay.
Well, wait, what does he call the Los Angeles property?
He doesn't live there anymore.
Yeah, I know, but was that Broken Skull Ranch?
That was 316 Gimmick Street.
But he didn't also call that Broken Skull Ranch?
I don't think so, because it was in Marina Del Rey or something like that. It ain't a ranch.
Wasn't actually a ranch.
Nah, he was living in Los Angeles. It's in Marina Del Rey, I think he said on the show.
Man.
So he lived down by the water.
Down by the water. Yeah, what a hell of a shirt right here, and it still probably sells. I think it still sells like a ton.
Oh, I would be shocked if Stone Cold isn't regularly in the top 20 merch sellers every month, still to this day.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, the guy that gave us the what chant, still raking in that money. They had a
What?
what shirt similar to this, too.
They do. I don't think that sold quite as well.
Probably not. Anyway.
It probably still sold really well,
Yeah, probably still sold in the millions of dollars.
but nowhere near as close as this one.
Not in the tens of millions of dollars.
No, not in the several tens of millions.
Anyways, that's going to do it for Count Out today. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. We appreciate it. Let us know what iconic merch you thought belonged on this list, but then we didn't put it on there.
Yes,
Let
please.
us know in the comments.
There was a couple. Sorry to interrupt, Steve. There was a couple shirts that just barely missed the cut.
Oh, yeah. What else?
Monday Night Jericho. I don't know how
Great
beloved
shirt.
that one necessarily is, but what a great shirt.
Oh, that's a great shirt. Yeah.
Of course, from Jericho's WCW days. And then a classic, Terry Funk's Funk You shirt.
Great shirt. Yeah. Funk you.
It's a fantastic shirt.
Really great shirt. Of course, these days, Chase You shirt also.
Maybe
you guys
in 10 years from now, Chase U will be on this shirt.
Maybe 10 years, Friendo You will be on here.
Could be. Where's the mug, Steve?
It's in the dishwasher. It's simple. I haven't moved. I haven't gone anywhere.
Speaks to the quality of the mug.
Yeah, man. It's a great mug.